Howdy doody everyone. So, after my 2025 video posted, I thought one question. What now? I can now write anything I want to write. I decided to check this little journal I brainstorm ideas in it, and one idea spoke to me. Every DDLC sprite ranked. This would be me ranking every sprite in DDLC, as the name suggests. And I thought to myself, wow, that would be huge, but am I ready for it? I don't think so. However, I do like the idea of discussing a lesser appreciated part of the game that goes unnoticed. So I decided to discuss the poems first and go by character, rather than all of them in one package. Also, I'm going by what the wiki counts as a poem. As a poem. Also, I'm not counting special poems you can receive in Act 2, as that would get confusing. I will structure this like my Adventure Time mini-set ranking, and that I'll go over all of them, and at the end, I'll do it worst to best. With all that said, I'm starting off with my favorite character, that being Sayori. Since she's my favorite, this video will probably be really positive. If I don't like one, I still like the character and wish nothing but good things for her, so everything's cool. Here we go! Starting off, we have the one shown when Monica sees the wrong side of Sayori's paper in the first side, and technically the first poem ever. I like it. It's not as deep as some of the other poems, but it does a great job as an introductory poem to first-time players. Okay, now, I'm going to be analyzing these poems, and this is my interpretation, so sorry if I'm not 100% correct. We cool? Alright. So, here's what I see. I think this poem is about Joe. And no, I'm not going to call him MC. I refuse to disrespect anyone with a name like that. Anyway, my idea is this conveys a relationship between Joe and Sayori, the writer Neri, I remind you. The poem describes the second person, how Sayori depends on them, which makes me think of Joe and their relationship in the main game. The line, caution me to watch my steps so I can't look at my footprints, makes me think with Joe, Sayori stops looking in the past and begins looking in now. The next line supports this idea, climb the stairs ahead of me while I look up to. It really goes to show how much Joe means to her. But anyway, that's just my 2 cents. We're going to see a lot more clever ones in the future, so as it stands, it's solid. Let's go on to the next stage now. Alright. The next one is Become the Flower, read during the end of the first act of Trust, when Monica reads Sayori's folder. Maybe I should start calling her cringe now. I might not get the chance later. Anyway, I'm reading this on my phone, and I think I just read the pinnacle of Sayori's poems. I think it's pretty clear what this poem is conveying. Come on, please work. Origin story of depression. Please work. We discussed Sayori's need to rely on others in the last poem, and this poem conveys her need to be happy. Happiness to her is like a flower being plucked. It's short-lived, but there's a whole field of flowers, and she needs all of the flowers. She needs to stay happy. Okay, I'm going to stop right there because the rest of this poem gets more serious, and admittedly, I'm not ready to discuss that kind of stuff yet. I'm sorry, I just don't want to offend anyone, and I feel like if I'm going to discuss more of this, I will. Okay, now back to silly pink-haired goober. I'd say this poem is one of the best in the franchise. But now we head on to the main game. There's no more poems in the side stories, right? Right? Why does this even count as a poem? This is just 5 words. 5 words! The poems in DDLCs act as both building blocks for the characters and something to move the plot forward. This is just the latter. It only tells us crud we already knew, but it does lead to my favorite moment in the franchise, so brownie points, I guess. But other than that, worthless. Absolutely worthless. Do better, my lovable goofball. Do better. With that said, time to move on to the main game. For real this time. The first one in the main game is Dear Sunshine. I think this poem is easy, but I could be taking it at face value, so forgive me if I am. When the sun shines, it's a wake-up call. Literally, a wake-up call. It tells Sayori to get out of bed and do something. The last 3 lines support it as breakfast is something to work for instead of lying in bed. Not much else to say, though. It's a lot like Take My Hand in that there isn't much to discuss, but still a solid read. Like how Dear Sunshine was like Take My Hand, Bottles is like Become the Flower. Symmetry, my friend. I think I like this one better than Become the Flower. This one kind of conveys the somebody give this goofball a hug vibe, just like Become the Flower. It's more descriptive than the former, with being compared to bottles rather than flowers, which I feel was for the best. I don't think I've said this enough, but this and Become the Flower make you really feel bad for Sayori. She's so sweet and innocent, but you just want to hug her because she has little self-love, all because of that stupid, ugly, no-good Monica. It makes Sayori one of my top 10 favorite characters in fiction because of it. Oh, and speaking of cringe. Alright, last poem. Let's get this over with so we can move on to the ranking. I hate this one. It doesn't tell you anything about Sayori or anything really, other than cringe as a cotton-headed ninny muggins. However, I do prefer it over than sometimes I want to blink, blink, blink. It's supposed to be a freakazoid, not your character, but it's not something I would go back to unlike other freakazoid poems. Both that, we're finished discussing all Sayori poems. Thank goodness. Let's go on to the list and conclude. 6. Sometimes I want to blink, blink, blink. 5%. 4. Take my hand. 3. Dear Sunshine. 2. Become the Flower. And 1. Bottles. Man, I love Sayori, and her poems are, pun not intended, poetic. The bottom 2 are probably not worth your time, but the rest are awesome. Thanks for watching.